Intertalk Radio, you're in to all things music.
Your job is to help the organization succeed. So you want to make sure that you're in on those conversations. How do we know there's demand for this? How do we know this is what people are asking for? Show me. Prove it to me. I don't want opinions here. I want to see demand. Show me demand. If people can't show you demand, it's a real good time to start asking the question, why are we doing this? That can definitely be your job, and it can save your butt.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, happy Friday, everybody. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host, and a man who is still crazy after all these years. And with me today is our special engineer and the CEO of Intertalk Radio, who engineers when he's not CEOing, Florentino Buenaventura. How's it going down in La Jolla, my man?
I'm trying to CEO my way out of this, but it didn't quite work. Mr. Paul Berezetsky, who's usually with you, is off on vacation today, and everyone else is, we've got a handful of people that are dedicated to bring the news and the information about the music industry, as well as the great marketing tips from Mr. Scott Robertson of May the Best Brand Win. So we do our best to bring that out. And oh man, I can't wait to hear about who wins and loses. That's both me and Paul. That's what everybody's favorite part of that about this whole thing. We want the drama.
It's fun.
We want the marketing. Drama.
I got some good ones this week too. The marketing world was working overtime, sending me stuff today.
They do that to keep us in business around here at Intertalk.
They do. I mean, I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for bad marketing, I'd be out of a job. That's what I always say.
Yeah, true. Well, take it away, sir. Take it away.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So if you have a question for me out there in Radio Land, you can always email me at scott@robertsoncom.com, 2Ms.com. And I'll answer anything you send me right here on the show, and I can maybe build a show around it if it's something that if I see some trends forming out there. I always like to hear from folks that are either enjoying it or they, even if you hate it and you disagree with me, ferociously. I can accept that. People don't see the world the same way, and certainly a marketer is the first among those people to admit that. So send me all your posts. Send me all your emails to scott@robertsoncom.com, and we can have a little chat about it. You can also find my stuff, my posts, my client news clips, and other fun little tidbits at the Robertson.com Facebook page. Just search for Robertson.com with 2Ms, and there we are. Or at Twitter at Robertson.com. Please reach out and connect. My job is to entertain you and give you some tips and hopefully make this whole thing of marketing a little easier, a little bit better as we go. So today's episode, number 48, is I call Beyond Awareness. For the longest time, the Holy Grail of marketing was, in quotes, awareness, because the assumption by some people, usually not marketing people, but other people who work in the company, is that once an audience is aware of whatever we're doing, then all of our problems are going to be solved, right? Well, no. So in this action-packed episode of May the Best Brand Win, we're going to really explore the idea of awareness. Why it's important to, it's not something that you want to totally disregard, but also kind of where it falls and what you should know about awareness. Of course, as Florentino mentioned, we're also going to dig into who's winning and losing and see who, maybe jumped onto the awareness meter for the wrong reasons this week. I believe it was G.I. Joe, the G.I. Joe cartoon series that famously said, knowing is half the battle. So tune in and we're going to teach you both halves of the battle, the way to win the battle, to be quite honest. So let's dig right into awareness. This came up this week in some work that I was doing. What is awareness? Awareness is usually defined as knowledge or perception of a situation or a fact, as in we need to raise public awareness of this issue, Also, people say consciousness, recognition, realization, things like that. When it comes to awareness, the ability to directly know and perceive, to be cognizant of events. More broadly, it's the state or quality of being conscious of something. So from a marketing perspective, awareness is very, very important. It is sort of the beginning of where marketing is usually involved. Marketing and or sales, depending on what side of the fence you probably came in on. I'm always reminded of an interesting Stephen Colbert Daily Show interview. When Stephen Colbert was a correspondent on the Daily Show, he did this, and he's got that interview style that is just uniquely Stephen Colbert, and he's got the eyebrow cocked and everything. And he's asking this real nonprofit organization, he says, what is your goal? And they say, well, we really want to raise awareness, things that are going on, that kind of thing. And they give that kind of canned answer. And then Stephen Colbert, with that cocked eyebrow, kind of says, I see. And how much awareness have you raised? And it's moments like that where you're like, yeah, wow. Basically what he's saying is, in this case, you should set your sights to something a little higher, because if you set your sights at just we're trying to raise awareness, it's like, well, what do you plan to do with that? What is, and what he was saying without saying it is that is not an objective. That is a first step to an objective. Really important, really important. There's a lot of companies out there today that still don't understand that the name of the game is not actually awareness. So what is the name of the game? Let's talk about the funnel, shall we? The funnel. You can't get away too far without running into the funnel. Depending on your level of marketing education or sales, marketing and sales has a funnel, right? The most current thinking in this funnel is that let me start from the beginning. So the funnel is basically at this widest point, it's awareness. At the next rung down from the funnel, there's interest, and then the next rung down, there's decision, and then the last rung down where it's really kind of more narrow, there's action. And basically, lots of people aware, a little more interested, a few more are going to move to the decision process, and then the small part is going to be action. Now, what branders will say, and I am a brander, don't forget, is that the problem with this model is that it's like you pour water into a funnel and then the water's gone. The objective of branding is not that they go through the funnel and get there, right? That's the objective of sales. The objective of the brand is how do we get them back on the ride at some point? How do we recapture them and keep capturing them? So I always tend to think of, instead of more of like a funnel, I like to kind of think of it as like a merry-go-round, or a carousel. The carousel, mindset can be infinitely more useful to us. I think so. The Public Relations Society of America, in discussing how public relations work should be measured, created something called the Barcelona Principles, which sounds fascinating, but really they just did it in Barcelona, and thus the name Barcelona. If they would have done it like here in my office, it would have been the Rancho Santa Margarita, California Principles. But Barcelona sounds real good, and it sounds really like massively impressive. So I like stuff like that. So the Barcelona Principles go like this. At every stage of that funnel, awareness, knowledge, consideration, preference, action, and they use those 5 instead of the shorter 4-tier one that I talked about earlier. They basically say that there's public relations activity that goes on. There's an intermediary effect and a target audience effect, which is ultimately what you want to get to. What you want to get to is sales, increase market share, maybe cost savings, generating more leads, and then ultimately customer loyalty. Remember, we always talk about marketing being the long-term relationship business. also expressed as in those words, customer loyalty. So if that's where we're trying to go, the box that has little lines drawn around it are sales, market share, cost savings, lead generation, and customer loyalty, then the first step of that process is awareness. And, awareness is a big deal. It absolutely is. It's just not the only deal. It is the beginning. So, I'll tell a couple of stories. So, when I used to work at NAM, and all the marketing people will certainly be able to understand what we're talking about here. When you work in marketing communications in an organization and you serve other clients inside the organization, your job is obviously to make them happy, but your job is to make the organization happy. So you've always got that sort of those things in balance. Now, marketing communications is a fantastic scapegoat for when things don't go well. And in our case at NAM, a lot of the folks that I would work with would say, well, we have an awareness problem. They're just not aware of all of our programs and all the great things that we do for these NAM members. And, so how do you solve an awareness problem in those people's mind? Well, more communication is actually how you solve it. You put our articles in the magazine, you send them more stuff. If awareness is the issue, then we just got to reach out and beat you over the head like the message was a baseball bat, and we're in the movie The Untouchables, and eventually, you'll get the message. But I always had the contention that I don't believe people are stupid. I don't believe audiences are stupid. I believe they know exactly what they wish to know. I also believed, certainly back in those days, and I used to state quite a lot, that it's entirely possible that the audience is perfectly aware, but they just don't care, right? And, wave your hands in the air if you're aware, but wave them like you just don't care. Sometimes awareness is a nice way of saying, I don't really care, but I don't want to tell you that because I feel like that's going to hurt your feelings. So what I fall back on when people ask me in a survey or they ask me other things are, I didn't know you did that. I totally knew you did that. I totally knew it. I knew it. But I don't want to say this sentence. I knew that you did that. I think it's stupid. It doesn't have any value for me, and I don't want to be associated with it in any way. But enjoy the rest of your night. People don't talk like that. That's way too confrontational. That's way too direct. So they punt backwards to, I didn't know. If I just would have known, man, if I just would have known. And then so if you take that feedback and you believe it, which you shouldn't, but you take that feedback and you believe it, then you can very easily come to the conclusion that we need to send out our message broader, louder, bigger, stronger, those kind of things. Let's take a San Diego story, for example. The San Diego Chargers recently moved up to Los Angeles. They're going to have ticket sales problems in this market. You heard it here first. They're going to have a hard time selling this arena out. Why are they going to have a hard time selling the arena out? NFL's popular. Rams are going to do fine. Rams, which were 1 year in Los Angeles, are going to do fine, that kind of thing. Eventually, they're going to share the same stadium, the two teams are. But what's weird about it is that no one in Los Angeles asked for the Chargers. San Diego, by the way, didn't want to lose the Chargers. So you have this extraordinarily awkward situation that no one asked for, that now it's going to be put at the feet of marketing communications and say, well, you guys should create demand for this team being here. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. This is a marketing secret. If you research what people want, marketing communications job just got 1,000,000% easier. Changing people's mind to adopt a football team that they didn't ask for, I don't see it. I really don't see that happening. And yet they're going to lay that at the feet of somebody. Somebody's job is going to be to create awareness. And then when they fail, and they will fail, they will be at fault for why they couldn't generate interest in the Los Angeles Chargers. When the truth is, the actual truth, is that they shouldn't be there in the first place. The owner wants to put them there, or be there with the expectations that, hey, nobody asked for this, so you get what you get, man. if you're doing marketing inside an organization and you suspect that maybe products are being developed and things are being asked for you to communicate and maybe they haven't been researched properly, it's also your job to help your job is to help the organization succeed. So you want to make sure that you're in on those conversations. How do we know there's demand for this? How do we know this is what people are asking for? Show me, prove it to me. I don't want opinions here. I want to see demand. Show me demand. If people can't show you demand, it's a real good time to start asking the question, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense. And again, that can definitely be your job, and it can save your butt because if you take on an assignment like if they said, "Hey, Scott Robertson, we want you to create demand for the Los Angeles Chargers," that's a tough assignment, man. I mean, sure, you can rally some people from Orange County mostly. Your best shot at it would be to rally all the people in Orange County who used to drive down to San Diego and make it seem like a little more their team now, right? Then now it's a little more your team. I mean, that's where I would strike. I would absolutely strike there. The heart of Los Angeles didn't ask for the Chargers in any way, shape, or form, and they're pretty well tied to the Los Angeles Rams now. So it's tough to, it's like a Clippers-Lakers thing kind of going on in Los Angeles, but at least, the Clippers and Lakers coexisted for a good long time, and sometimes the Lakers are good, sometimes the Clippers are, good. Honestly, the Clippers have been bad forever, but they've just recently been good and that kind of thing. But, it's a tough assignment. Marketing this is where you got to use the science part of marketing really to your best advantage. But just remember, when you're looking at these, stages of marketing that we're talking about, that you've got different things that you can be doing, along the idea in terms of awareness. That's where you're creating content. That's where you're doing your traditional media engagement. That's where you're doing social media engagement. That's where you're holding events, you're doing speeches, you're doing all these kind of things. And maybe you're doing those things throughout, but the message is maybe a little more educational in those kind of things. And what you want is, everything starts with awareness. But I guess, again, my continued point is it can't end there. It just can't end there. You must be able to, take the percentage of people who are now aware and move them to, okay, now they're going for knowledge, and now they're going for consideration, and now they're making a choice between two preferred options, and now they're getting to action. Because what we want action. All of us want the end of the bar graph. We want that action with the bottom of the sales funnel. And then, like I said, if you're a brander, you want that sales funnel to keep going round and round and round like a carousel. So we're talking about awareness on May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back for segment 2. We're going to talk about who's winning and losing. See you in a few.
Mic is clear, sir.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few.
Thank you.
Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, it's Friday, and you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott. We're talking about beyond awareness today, and with me is a man of which we're always aware, Florentino Buenaventura, host of The Changing Stage and CEO, my God, of Intertalk Radio. How's it going?
Only the best for Scott. Hey,
you go.
It's all an amazing time we're having here, and we are in San Diego, and we are part of that losing crew. We lost our football team that's been here since since I was a baby.
Dude, that is the dumbest move I've ever. I mean, that should be a permanent spot in winning and losing. There is no way that works out.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just no way that works out.
And
I don't know.
Well, the other thing was, I don't know why San Diego didn't somehow figure out a way to get. I don't know the Spanoses, who are from my old area, which is Northern California, didn't actually help to get. I don't know. I didn't really follow it enough to really speak of any knowledge on this, but it just seems like a new stadium wouldn't have been that hard to do. It's just like we can get the Super Bowl back and get a lot of money if we can get a decent stadium, because they wouldn't come back for that. It's just pretty crazy. So, that just. I
can't imagine the NFL. The NFL is a pretty smart organization, right? And even though they behave, they're not very smart how they behave, but they have a lot of data, a lot of access to, a lot of resources and things. And the fact of the matter is that San Diego is a much better market, and now you've just abandoned this great market with great weather. Open air stadiums are actually possible in places like San Diego. I mean, it's like,
and you've got a radio network that's all about the music and entertainment business. Go figure,
the
right?
Best, the best radio network. Well, we're going to put the Los Angeles Chargers in the permanent losing category. Let's see who else is in which category, shall we?
Yeah, go for it, brother.
All right, cool. So, it can pay to be the funny person at work. In every social group, people fit into a status hierarchy. The workplace is no exception. But many people try to climb the ladder by logging long hours, volunteering for additional assignments, dressing for success. But there might be an easier way, just being funny. A recent study titled Risky Business, When Humor Increases and Decreases Status, found that a good sense of humor improves your professional status at the workplace. People perceive funny colleagues as more competent and confident than serious or boring colleagues if humor is done the right way. Oh, man, I love stories like that. So humor leads to a higher status, but it can work the other way, too. Greater status gives license to joking. Higher status individuals within organizations have the luxury of making jokes comfortably or face lower risks. A failed joke greeted with cold reaction is not only embarrassing, but can hurt your career. Doesn't this sound like a Seinfeld episode? I got to say, people study this. So what's your job? Well, I study whether being funny in the workplace is a way to be successful. And then they're like, yeah, that's your job? Freaky. But we're going to put, and I think we have to put, being funny in the workplace as winning this week. And the researchers that have researched this report, we got to put them in winning, because awesome way to make a living off of that. Google created a report about millennials, and it's called "It's Lit: A Guide to What Teens Think Is Cool." Okay, so every once in a while, people of an older generation get the idea that they're going to do some market research, and then they're going to come in and tell other adult, older folks what they think teens are cool, so that they can better manipulate them through marketing. It's always a bad idea. Honestly, there's no better way to understand that it's a bad idea than to raise teenagers. I have 2 teenage kids. There is no way that you are going to be cool to them. That is a complete go ahead and give up. You play a role, but it's not going to be the cool role, right? And that's just called acceptance. Let's just accept that kind of thing. And if you're a company or brand and you want to do what the kids are doing, be careful. Be really, really careful. I do encourage you to look at some of the stories around this It's Lit paper that Google put out. It's a report about what teens think is cool. Let's see who did a story on it. Mashable, Foster Kramer over at Mashable did the story. But here we go. It has some great graphs in it. Some of the, according to the report by Google, one of the most highly valued companies members of Generation Z think is Chick-fil-A, and it's cooler than Tesla or Vans or Converse or Under Armour. If you want to be a Generation Z whisperer too, don't write things like, don't name the paper It's Lit. It's like, no, don't do that. Just say, this is what we think is, teens think is cool, but there's at least a 50% chance we're wrong and they lied to us. So, anyway, but check it out. Enjoy that one. I'm going to put that in the losing category because that really very rarely works. Hey, let's talk about AOL combining itself with Yahoo and creating this new company called Oath. Yes, that's a thing. So Oath is the name of the company. Terrible name for a company, by the way. You can't, AOL certainly is charged because, all of us grew up, of a certain age, kind of grew up with AOL, and it was our first real foray into the internet. So there's no way that you don't have positive recollections about, sort of the coolness of the new frontier that was AOL. It was great. And Yahoo, kind of same thing, search, one of our first, search engines, and sort of made sense of all the information on the web. But then you combine those two things and you create a company called Oath. It's like, we always talk about branding, being about emotion. What emotion do you get around Oath? It doesn't invoke anything with any type of real emotion. Maybe that's the point. Maybe they're going a different direction. Who's to say? But that's not what I would have called it. There's a lot of better things that you probably could have called it, and maybe kept the brand equity of 2 of those brands alive with AOL and Yahoo in some way. But they announced today that Marissa Mayer, CEO of Yahoo, will not be part of Oath. We don't know if it's because of the name. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, just so you know, we're going to put all that in the losing bucket because, well, how could you not? That's what I say. Let's talk about the fake news. Lots of stuff in the fake news this week. Tech companies are funding a brand new initiative to help fight the fake news in an effort to battle the scourge and its effect on public attitudes toward the media. And we've talked about that ad nauseum at this show. By the way, I have a show coming up where I'm going to bring a journalist on, and I call that show The Fake News. And we're going to talk about public attitudes towards journalism. And you guys are going to really dig that one. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm anxious to get some answers myself. As you know, the entire one of my favorite go-to-market weapons is public relations, and public relations is in complete risk if the news continues to fall in its trustworthiness, and trustability with the people. Then it's hard to make a case that we should send our message riding in on the shoulders of it. So I'm hoping those numbers move in the other direction sooner than later. It'd be very helpful. But the News Integrity Initiative is now backed by $14 million raised by Facebook, Mozilla, BetaWorks, AppNexus, the Craig Newmark Philanthropic Fund, don't know who he is, the Ford Foundation, Democracy Fund, and the James L. Knight Foundation and the Toe Foundation. The funds will support the News Integrity's mission to advance news literacy, to increase trust in journalism around the world, and to better inform the public conversation. To this end, the initiative they're going to fund some research projects and organize global meetings between industry experts. Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Sorry. And also, Facebook announced just today they have plans to pay fact checkers and post educational ads that tackle fake news on its own news feed. So this is interesting, right? Facebook plans to pay fact checkers to monitor news flowing through its feed. Now, Facebook famously hired a bunch of journalists, learned how they curate content, and then designed an algorithm to replace all those people, and then summarily fired all of those people. There's all kinds of, if you're interested in that story, by the way, and it's gnarly, you should absolutely check out some of the blog posts from some of the journalists who got brought in on sort of false pretenses by Facebook. And then they kind of took all their knowledge out there and then designed a computer to replace their job and then just sent everybody to the curb. But maybe they're learning because now they're going to pay fact checkers, or maybe they're going to pay fact checkers so they can look at the fact checkers process and design a computer algorithm to be able to replace them as well. That could be. But Facebook has formed partnerships with a lot of third parties, PolitiFact, Snopes, AFP, Le Monde, and Corrective, to act as fact checkers for news posted to the platform. Interesting. Back in the day, most journalists and journalism outfits that I worked with, they had their own fact checkers. But I will tell you that all of the job cuts that have affected the journalism profession, some of the fact checkers were some of the first people to go. So if you sit there and shake your head and say, there should be more fact checking in the journalism. Yeah, there should. But fact checking, people like to get paid American dollars or what have you. And, so they can eat. And that money isn't in journalism. So therein lies the rub, the problem, so to speak. But lots of stuff on the fake news. I think we're going to put. Well, I think we can put the fact checking of the news and winning, and the new tech initiative to fight fake news. I think we'll also put that in winning. Absolutely. Also winning are people with blue eyes, or actually, I don't know if this is winning or losing. This is just kind of interesting. A story that Mashable posted this week said there's actually no such thing as blue eye pigment. Did you know that there's a skin pigment called melanin that is in our eyes? And basically, when you have lots of melanin, your eyes are brown. But the absence of this pigment actually, and the refracting of the light on the eye, creates the illusion that people's eyes are blue, right? So this, when people say that people have blue eyes, what they actually mean is that they don't have brown eyes, because there's actually only the brown-eyed color. And then, and now you just want to sing Brown-Eyed Girl for some reason. I mean, you just want to go into a verse right now, just power right into it. It's fine. Do it yourself. Pause the thing on, and sing a little Brown-Eyed Girl. It's great. Fine. But blue eyes, by the way, when my band does Brown-Eyed Girl, we do one chorus with Brown-Eyed Girl, then we do Blue-Eyed Girl, and then we do Green-Eyed Girl, because we get sick of girls coming up afterwards and going, well, why is it always Brown-Eyed Girl? What's up with why can't we have Green-Eyed Girl? And there's a Blue-Eyed Girl? And, oh my God. And we're like, all right, fine. Equality, eye equality. We don't want to have discrimination by eye color in any song that we are currently using. So let's go with that. But here's an interesting fact that you can throw on somebody. Did you know that there is actually no such thing as blue eye pigment? If you know somebody has blue eyes, what they have is a lack of melanin that creates brown eye pigment. If you're interested in that whole video, which is pretty cool, actually, it's on Mashable, so go check it out. And we're going to say winning. If you have blue eyes, you're winning because you got a lack of pigment and, you got enough problems. So there you go. Also winning is today, right from the headlines, ripped from the headlines today, is Taco Squirrel. Taco Squirrel is exciting because he found a hard shell taco on the ground, and then he dragged that sucker. And I mean, the taco is almost as big as the squirrel. It's a big taco. And he drags the taco all the way up the tree. And that deserves, I mean, that's winning. I mean, that is winning, people. That's positive attitude. That's all of his squirrel friends are saying, dude, you're never going to get that taco up the tree. And why aren't you eating nuts anyway? His friends are upset. And he's like, oh, dude, I love tacos and I'm dragging this sucker up the tree. It's coming up the tree with me, and you watch it. And you know what? I say kudos to Taco Squirrel. You owe it to yourself today to go and check out a picture of Taco Squirrel dragging that taco up the tree. It's very exciting. It made my day today. I thought it might make yours as well. Also winning, businesses are starting to use are using social media more to listen, which I talk about almost all the time. When people say social media, they're always like, well, how many likes do we have? How many follows do we have? And this kind of thing. It's like a whoa, whoa, whoa. The greatest way you can use social media is to listen. That's the part of communication where you're not talking. It's not popular amongst marketing people because marketing people like to suck all of the oxygen out of the damn room by speaking all of the time. But you don't have to. As it turns out, this communication thing works really great if you just be quiet and listen to what other people are saying. What sites do companies use to listen the most? Facebook, 93%, Twitter and Instagram, 79 and 71% respectively. And businesses are listening in on LinkedIn, 53%, blogs, 43%, and news sites, though to a lesser degree. Really, really important stuff to adopt into your programs here. I know it's not the sexy stuff. It's not the stuff that you're going to go to the board and go, hey, we're listening in on Facebook or whatever. But to be in marketing, you got to be smart. To be smart, you got to listen. You got to know how to listen. You got to know what the data coming in says, and you got to understand where there's opportunities to strike. Remember we talked about in the first segment Los Angeles Chargers of Los Angeles? Well, I guarantee you, there's no Facebook groups on the thing. They're saying, you know what, we need another football team in Los Angeles. Let's have the Chargers. That makes a lot of sense. That kind of thing. And again, listening, guides you to make better decision making, and better decision making is what's going to guide your marketing to greater and greater heights. It's really, really important. The last thing I just want to mention really quickly is that the USC Annenberg study of communications predicts that the PR and marketing functions are continuing to converge, with 87% of respondents saying the term public relations might not accurately describe their work in 5 years, which is why I'm a fan of being an expert in a lot of things in marketing, because different companies need different things. And it's really, really important to know that. And I don't just identify myself as a public relations person. I identify myself as a marketing person, but I love public relations. But I think it is pretty fascinating to see the convergence between different disciplines together. So check that out if you're interested. That's at the USC Center for Public Relations. Right now, you're listening to May the Best Brand Win on Air Talk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. I'm going to give you some tips to build awareness and keep on going right after that. We'll see you in a few.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. pitbullaudio.com.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Happy Friday, everybody. You are so wisely tuned back into May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am still Scott, powering through to segment 3 of the show. With me here is the CEO with the most, Florentino Buenaventura. What did you think of who do you think's winning and losing this week, Florentino? How's it going?
I'm with you with Taco Squirrel, man. If you can, it's kind of like that one old song, the ant trying to push the rubber tree plant or whatever. You got to love that.
Yeah.
And I peeped out the whole Yahoo, Verizon, AOL thing because I came from that world before, and it's funny how two of the biggest internet companies in the world are just struggling to try to figure out how to make it relevant. So it's hard to figure out what AOL still does, but I guess they own some cool properties. They still own, what was the player they own? They own a few different things that they're still kind of nursing along, but definitely not the behemoths that they once were. And then Verizon is just buying things up. I like to look at Verizon and put it in perspective. I worked for Nokia for many years, and Microsoft bought us for like $6 million. I think it was $6 billion or something like that. And
baby.
I think when Verizon bought back their stock from BT, it was like $120 billion they bought back for a third of the company, mind you. It wasn't even the whole company. So,
man,
that's when we think about what we pay our cell phone companies, it's mind-boggling actually how much money they make. So I don't know if that has anything relevant to do with anything, but I thought I'd just jammer about that for a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when you're going to name. When you're going to name something, naming things is so important, right?
Yeah.
And when you're going to name something, exactly. And they choose, and I assume that like people got paid to do this, probably wasn't just like, the CEO's son or something kind of came up with it, but it was like, they came up with Oath. Oath is the name of the company.
Have they given any explanation to why or what that's supposed to stand for?
No, I'll do a little more investigation into it, but that's like naming the company Dirt.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't feel anything. I understand what it is. I understand what it is, but I don't feel anything. And what is the oath that you're promising to go out of business within 5 years? I mean,
what is the business going to be? I don't understand what their model is going to be anymore either.
Exactly. So, anyway, I thought that all kinds of losing going on there.
Taco Squirrel, man. That's what I got to tell you.
Did you see the picture of Taco Squirrel? Taco Squirrel rules.
I did. Actually,
he rules.
I seen that, and there was a video of another one that was eating a soft taco. I like the hard taco squirrel though. He was chilling up in the tree, and it was good.
Dude, anybody that can bring a taco intact up the tree like that, that's impressive.
Yeah, that's it. So, we'll continue on, sir. We need more knowledge about marketing because this is definitely not the smartest marketing generation that we've come up with.
Lots of stuff. Well, good. So we're talking about beyond awareness on this episode, number 48 here, and I thought I would leave you with in the last segment here, really give you some tips on how to build that awareness. But again, as we talked about, that being only the first step of many, which can be a five steps or 4 steps, depending on where you are. And to make it more complicated, different groups of your audience will fall into different stages at different times. So it's not like your whole audience experiences you once and then, and then everybody's just moving along the chain the same way. To make it a little bit more complicated and to make it more, targeted, you've always got new people that you are in awareness, and you've got people that have just bought from you. And then how do you get them, keep them on the brand carousel? You've got people that are considering their options. You got all these different kind of things. And that's what makes marketing kind of fun and exciting and always interesting and entertaining. But here's some tips for you. Number 1, research everything first. If people are going to lay the awareness challenge at your feet, then you need to ask the question back and go, are we sure people want this? Are we sure? How are we sure? I got handed a lot of things in my corporate gigs, where people would say, we need to create awareness of this kind of thing. And my answer back was almost always, okay, where's the data that showed that our audience is asking for this? Remember, and I know people can say, well, that doesn't make me very popular amongst my internal clients. I get it. Believe me. But somebody in this world has got to look out for your audience, your very well protected audience, and somebody's got to look out for the master brand, the brand of your organization. And hopefully it's not called Oath. That would be a great place to start. But, you must be able to demonstrate demand for the things that you're doing. Sometimes boards of directors can dream stuff up and say, oh, well, we think, there's boards of directors can come up with all kinds of goofy things because they haven't done any research. They're basing all of their opinions on their own personal opinions. And baby, that is dangerous with every single letter, every single letter capitalized. You do not want to base a business, program on someone's opinion. I'm the most fly by the seat of my pants guy in the world that I can be. But when you're getting ready to commit the company resources to something, you better have a good, strong hypothesis and backed with some research that shows that people want what you're going to be doing. Otherwise, you're going to have a very impossible marketing task ahead of you. And actually, you know how we always talk about marketing as sort of an intrusion that people don't want? Well, people really don't want it when it's something they don't want, right? The worst kind of marketing in people's minds is always going to be something that they're going to move so quickly to the fact that you're an annoyance and invasion if they don't want anything to do with what you're, selling already. It is the hardest way to reach people. So research first. And again, then your awareness is going to be much easier because then if you come in and first, and by the way, if you do your research right, let's say you're doing social listening. I'm not saying, necessarily you have to do a focus group or phone surveys or anything like that, but you're listening to people on social media. That is your job. That is marketing's job, by the way, to listen. And so when you've identified this, either maybe it's with product development, maybe it's with it is with product development, or it's with the sales team, or it's with whoever you've got your folks that you're working with. But you want to make sure that those are your first people that you can strike with. The people that have wanted it first are the people who are going to be predisposed to be aware of it first once it becomes available, right? Too much logic for one bullet point, but there you go. Research first. Number 2. To create awareness, sometimes your word isn't going to be enough by itself. So this is where we use influencers. And I'm going to put in the larger bucket of them. I did a whole show on influencer marketing. There's a lot of boomerang dark side to the influencer marketing where it can boomerang back on you in a bad way. Jury's out as to whether I like it or not. I use it sparingly and cautiously is what I'll say. But in that larger bucket of influencers, I will put, let's put the media, certainly. But let's say you want people, when you're at the awareness stage, you want to get in. you want to get into their minds. And the way to get into their minds is you need to have an open channel. And one of the best ways to do that is to go in on a channel that they already trust, a channel that was invited in, and that's really, really important to keep in mind, that influencers can play such a role at the awareness stage, so that's where you want to use them. That's where you want to use them, because introducing brand new ideas, brand new products, brand new companies, brand new everything, at the awareness stage, sometimes requires it requires a bit more trust than sometimes a new company's going to have on its own. So again, influencers for number 2. Number 3, let's not forget about public relations. When we're sitting here at the awareness stage, the awareness stage is really, really important, and PR can play a really strong role there. The new things like, launches and new company launches and new product launches, all of those things, they require an educational approach. And PR is a good educator. It really, really is a strong educator. Sometimes people call that, a stakeholder engagement, which is sort of a fancy word, a fancy, 2 words that really just mean the people that are important, that are most important to you. You want them to be aware of what you're doing first, right? Stakeholder means, obviously, holding a stake, having a vested interest in the company's and the brand's success. Can also mean shareholders and stuff like that in the case of public companies. But again, I just want to emphasize and continue to emphasize the fact that public relations typically has an education-based approach. Why do we have an education-based approach? Because the first group that we usually have to educate are the media, and we have to educate them as to, we're launching a new product, and the product, and they have to understand, okay, why is this a story? Why is this a story for my audience? Why is, what makes it different? And then be able to kind of anticipate and ask the hard questions too. Why is this necessary at this time? What problem does this solve that other, things don't solve in the marketplace? What is going to be, extremely, cool about this? And again, if you look at the stages, you're going awareness to knowledge, to consideration, to preference, to action, right? It's really, really important that you, there's a effect that goes through all of these, and it's really the alignment of your key messages, right? So PR is a good way to get your messages straight. Sometimes when you're writing marketing copy, you can get kind of swept away and stuff. But if you take it back to PR type copy, journalistic, objective, let's dial the hype out of this for a few seconds kind of copy, then it's easier to keep your messages aligned, throughout the communications funnel or the sales funnel. And just a word about if you're in sales and you heard me talking about the funnel, people might say, well, that's just the sales funnel, and sales is responsible for all of that. Not really. No. Sales is responsible typically for the last 2 pieces of the funnel. And marketing is kind of responsible for the, for the awareness, the knowledge, the consideration phase, because you might not get a one-on-one opportunity. Yeah, of course, there's sales calls where, a salesperson will take them through all 5, stages, but that's not the model for the company. What you have to understand, what I would tell any great salesperson is the fact is this is how marketing is supposed to be serving you. We're supposed to be shelling the beach so that when we send in the ground troops, sales is the ground troops, right? You can't send the ground troops in until you've shelled the beach. Otherwise, what happens to the ground troops, right? It's an early day, so to speak. So let's make sure that marketing's doing its job. And believe me, there are so many articles written about the sales funnel and the marketing funnel, and I like to call it the sales and marketing carousel, by the way. Funnel, again, assumes that they're going out the bottom and then, hey, wasn't it great that we just filtered all these people down from a big group to a little group and then they're gone? That is not the plan. The plan is, if you're smart and like, a branding person, you want, let's keep the people. Let's keep them happy with the brand and on the ride with us. That would be a great thing to do. So when you're building your awareness, make sure that you're measuring your awareness too. You want to measure at every stage, by the way. Maybe different things. Maybe you're measuring some different things, but you want to use things like, people say, well, how do you measure awareness? Like we talked about the Stephen Colbert thing about how much awareness have you generated. Actually, awareness is fairly easy to measure. Got to say, of all the things, people will tell you the truth more about, you can gauge it by audience reach and make an assumption that if you reach them with the message, that they're probably aware of what's going on with you, what's going on with your brand. So you can take things like, you can look at media impressions for a TV segment that you got, and you can say, okay, well, those are definitely reach numbers. You can look at other things like, what's our share of voice in an article? If there was let's say there was a roundup article of the best guitar amps and that kind of thing, you can measure what your share of voice is over time in some of those roundups and say, do we have a significant share of voice that's going on, in these kind of things? And do we have enough positive message versus, are there negative mentions of us too? It can get complicated in terms of your measurement. It always comes down to kind of what the goals are of the campaign. So if the goals were, we've got a new initiative and we're trying to increase awareness with, men 18 to 35. Well, then, we set up, we set up, either front and back surveys where we can measure awareness. We take audience reach and impression numbers and we measure awareness like that. But we always make sure, the most important thing, and tip number 4 is make sure you are measuring it, because you need to be able to show, okay, well, this many people are aware of us now, and then what did they do? And then what happened? And then what do we know about what happened? That kind of thing. Remember, you're always kind of in the lab on this stuff. It's very important. Tip number 5, be different. Zig where people zag. If you want to make people aware of what you're doing, don't be like everybody else. Be you. I worked with all kinds of different companies, and they, want to have a robust turnkey solution to problems, and everything just sounds good, and it's the greatest sounding little marketing language you ever heard, and it doesn't say a damn thing. Be different. Be uniquely your brand. That's why you're here. Awareness may be the tip of the marketing iceberg, but you got to start somewhere. Be sure you don't end there as well, and realize that effective marketing has a path to take people through the funnel and keep them on that carousel for the whole ride, around and around and around she goes. Marketing isn't always quote unquote wanted, but people do like to be made aware of new things in their world that will help them get to what they ultimately want. You can help them get there. At the very least, they won't say that they weren't, aware of your entire situation that you have going on. And that's awareness in a nutshell, folks, or a taco shell, folks. That's it from me, marketing fans. Until next week, this has been Scott Robertson, host of May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?